So the topic of today's lecture will make a background of what is protein biosynthesis, and then maybe one more lecture will spend on making a suitable background, and after that uh, we'll see the actual protein biosynthesis mechanism. So this is the usual disclaimer that I keep telling in my every lecture. So for protein biosynthesis, what are the four major requirements? Let us try and understand from that. So the first major requirement for protein biosynthesis, and please remember, unless I mention, we are primarily talking about the prokaryotic system. So the major requirement, the first and the foremost, is ribosomes. And what is their job? What is their role? Their role or job is to provide the surface for translation. Okay, ribosomes, they provide the surface for translation. The site of protein synthesis is ribosome. The site of translation is ribosome, right? Second major requirement is you require amino acids. You require a pool of amino acids, because what are they? They are the building blocks of the polypeptide chain. Okay, so you need a pool of all the 20 standard amino acids which participate in protein biosynthesis, because they serve as a building blocks of the polypeptide chain. The third major requirement is tRNA. Okay, it serves as an adapter. So I have been telling you this for long now, that tRNA serves as a translation adapter, and therefore it is the most crucial component of translation, because it is the only molecule which can understand both the languages, the language of nucleotides and the language of amino acids. So therefore it is the most crucial component as far as the translation is concerned. And the fourth major requirement is messenger RNA, because it carries the information, it carries the sequence of codons specifying the sequence of amino acids in the polypeptide chain. In what sequence amino acids will be joining in the polypeptide chain is determined by the sequence of codons in the messenger RNA. And where does this sequence of codon come from? This information comes from the DNA in the gene, right? And what are codons? Codons are, they are triplets of nucleotides, okay, each specifying for a particular amino acids. So there are as many as 64 codons. 61 codons code for amino acids, whereas 3 codons are stop codons. So what does it mean? You have only 20 amino acids and 61 codons. What does it mean? It simply means that there are amino acids which have more than one codon representing them. All right. So we'll understand that also in some other lecture. Now, besides these four major requirements, a host of protein factors are involved in protein biosynthesis. Protein biosynthesis per se is a pretty complicated, pretty complex process. Okay, so number of different protein factors at different stages, they will be involved in the protein biosynthesis. Comparatively, relatively speaking, protein biosynthesis mechanism in prokaryotes and lower organism is better understood. We have a fairly good idea of how does it take place. In case of eukaryotes, it's far more complex and we are still learning about it, right? So right now we are primarily talking about the prokaryotic protein biosynthesis. Now, the first major requirement is ribosome. So let us understand something about ribosomes. So ribosomes, as such, they are a major cellular component. In an actively growing bacterium, there may be as many as 20,000 ribosomes. Please understand, 20,000 ribosomes in a single bacterium, an actively dividing bacterial cell, may have as many as 20,000 ribosomes. And as such, they constitute something like 10% of the total bacterial proteins and about 80% of the total bacterial RNA. See the dominance of these ribosomes. 10% of the total proteins and about as much as 80% of the total RNA present in bacteria, comes from the ribosome only. What are they? They are ribonucleoprotein particles. So now you understand what is meant by ribonucleoprotein. We have discussed it earlier also. Ribonucleoprotein means these are made up of two types of biomolecules. One is RNA and second one is protein. Okay, and therefore together they are called as ribonucleoprotein. Their molecular mass, bacterial ribosome. Bacterial ribosome has a molecular mass of close to 2700 kilodalton. Huge macromolecular assembly ribosomes are. And their sedimentation coefficient is around 70s. This is the structure of ribosome. It is made up of two types of subunits. One is a large subunit. This is the large subunit. And sedimentation coefficient of large subunit is 50s. Whereas there is one small subunit, the sedimentation coefficient is 30s. This is the small subunit, right? So by shape also you can understand that this one is a large subunit. 50 and 30, when you add, it becomes 80. But the total sedimentation coefficient of the intact ribosome is 70s only. So please do not get confused. Large subunit has a sedimentation coefficient of 70s, and the small subunit has a sedimentation coefficient of 30 Swedberg units. S means Swedberg unit. Okay. Now, what are the RNA and protein components of these two subunits? Large subunit, in brief, it is called as LSU. So we'll be referring it as LSU, large subunit. It has got 23S ribosomal RNA and 5S ribosomal RNA. And besides these two RNAs, it has got as many as 31 different types of polypeptides. So you have to remember this, memorize this table also. Small subunit, which we'll be referring in brief as SSU, small subunit. It has got the RNA component is 16S ribosomal RNA. 16S ribosomal RNA, and it has as many as 21 different polypeptides. And since it is made up of both protein and RNA, it is referred to as the ribonucleoprotein particle, right? Okay, so this ribosome, as far as protein biosynthesis is concerned, for the sake of understanding, it has got three not so well-defined sites. I have defined those sites here for your benefit, for you to understand, but they are not so well defined in the ribosomal structure. So you have three sites, means this is an A site. This is a peptidyl site, or it is all called as P site. And this is called as exit site or E site. Okay. In the bacterial structure, very often we'll come across these three sites. What is A site? A site is the site where all amino acid tRNAs, except the initiator tRNA, they will make entry into the ribosome through this site. All amino acid tRNAs. Except the initiator tRNA, they will make entry into ribosome through this site. Initiator tRNA, the one which will start the protein biosynthesis. That tRNA is a special tRNA, and it is the only tRNA which is allowed entry through this site, directly into the P site. Initiator tRNA. It will make entry directly from the P site. Also the P site will occupy, peptidyl tRNA will occupy, peptidyl tRNA means the tRNA which carries the polypeptide chain. So that tRNA will also be occupying the P site. An exit site, the deacylated tRNA, means once the amino acid from the tRNA has been given for the formation of, has been provided for the formation of the polypeptide chain, that tRNA is called as deacylated tRNA. So deacylated tRNA will occupy this site. Okay, and in the next round, when the ribosome moves one codon forward in this direction, the deacylated tRNA will exit out from the ribosome. Okay, so ribosome will move in this direction one codon at a time. So this is, let's say, messenger RNA. Here I have whatever I have drawn. Okay, and these are the codon on the messenger RNA. So amino acid tRNA will, all amino acid tRNA will enter from this place. Okay, and because their anticodon will be complementary to codons here, the peptidyl tRNA and the initiated tRNA, it will be occupying the P site. So you will have amino acid here, chain here, peptidyl means, so you have a chain of amino acid here. So this is called as peptidyl tRNA. Once the chain starts growing, so you will have a chain of amino acid here. This is called as peptidyl tRNA. Okay, so this will be occupying the P site, and once it gives up the amino acids, then what remains is a deacylated tRNA. Only tRNA devoid of amino acid. So when the ribosome moves one codon forward in this direction here, okay, this deacylated tRNA will come out of the ribosome. Okay, so amino acid tRNAs will enter from this side, all amino acid tRNAs except the initiated tRNA, and once they give up their amino acid, they will exit from this side, and therefore the name exit site. Okay, so you please remember this structure very carefully, because very often we'll come across this during the protein biosynthesis. Okay, now the two subunits, we have understood that it is made up of two subunits. The two subunits of the ribosome, they are in dynamic equilibrium. Means, I don't know what is the purpose, but these two subunits, they continuously associate and dissociate. Okay, they will be continuously associating and dissociating, means forming the complete ribosome and then immediately spontaneously dissociating from one another, making a large subunit and small subunit, separate large and small subunit. Okay, so this is a feature of ribosome. Continuously till the time it gets engaged into protein biosynthesis, these two subunits of the ribosome, they will be in a dynamic equilibrium, means they will be continuously getting associated or dissociated. Okay, and I have tried to show it over here that they will join, forming the complete ribosome, and spontaneously, if it is not engaged into protein biosynthesis, then these two subunits, they tend to disintegrate also, dissociate also. So this is what is meant by dynamic equilibrium. Okay, now the next major component is the mRNA. Okay, so mRNA, as I said, it serves as a template for translation. The information for the sequence of amino acid in the given polypeptide chain, it comes from the messenger RNA. So it serves as a template for translation. It carries information in the form of codons, specifying the sequence of amino acid in the polypeptide chain. Okay, and this messenger RNA has got specific start signals where the protein biosynthesis should start from. That signal is also there and shown in green, start signal. And similarly, where that polypeptide chain synthesis should stop, that stop signal is also there in the messenger RNA. Okay, now it can be monocystonic. Let us understand first what is meant by start signal and what is meant by stop signal. So typically a codon AUG, or in some cases it can be GUG also. GUG. In majority of cases it is AUG. This codon serves as an initiation codon. And please remember, this is the 5' end of the messenger RNA. This is about the 3' end of the messenger RNA. This initiation codon need not be the first 3 nucleotide at the 5' end. Okay. Typically, this initiation codon is located somewhere around 20 to 25 nucleotides downstream in this direction from the 5' end. How many? 20 to 25 nucleotide away from the 5' end, you will have this initiation codon. Please remember the first 3 nucleotides at the 5' end of the messenger RNA, they do not serve as the first codon. The first codon, which is generally AUG, coding for amino acid methionine. It codes for amino acid methionine. AUG. GUG also codes for the same, methionine only. So in majority of the cases it is AUG. In some cases it can be GUG also. In either of the case, the amino acid it codes for is always methionine, right? And then you'll have codons specifying the sequence of amino acid. These are different codons, 3 nucleotides making 1 codon, right? And then There are three codons which are stop codons. These are the three codons which are stop codons. Either it can be UGA, UAA, or UAG. Any of these three can serve as stop codon. So once you have this stop codon, once the ribosome encounters the stop codon, the protein biosynthesis or polypeptide synthesis will stop here. So messenger RNA contains both start signal and stop signal. There are specific codons for initiation and there are specific codons for the termination of the protein biosynthesis. Now, this messenger RNA can be monocystronic. Rarely in prokaryotes you have monocystronic messenger RNA. Means representing only one gene and coding for only a single polypeptide, which can be a complete protein also. Single polypeptide which can be a complete protein or a part of a protein. Therefore, I am using the word polypeptide. So it can be a part of a protein or it can itself be a complete protein. Majority of the messenger RNA in case of bacteria, they are polycystronic. They are polycystronic. Okay, means they code for several polypeptides. Okay, that means the information content of several genes come into this messenger RNA and simultaneously they will be coding for several polypeptides. So let us try and understand what is meant by monocystronic and what is meant by polycystronic. So the one that I have shown you previously, this you can consider as a monocystronic messenger RNA. Means it has got information for synthesis of only one polypeptide. It has got just one initiation codon and one stop codon. So only one gene is represented here. So you can term it as a monocystronic. Okay. Understand, take an example of the polycystronic messenger RNA. So this is an example of polycystronic messenger RNA. Okay, this is one cistron, means information content of one gene with a specific start codon, green, and a specific stop codon, red. Then after some gap, there is another information content of the second gene, with a specific start signal and a specific stop signal. Then after some gap also, there is a third information of the third gene, which is also called a cistron. So with a specific start signal of its own and a stop signal of its own. So such a messenger RNA which has got information content of multiple genes, multiple cistron, is called as polycystronic messenger RNA. And polycystronic messenger RNA in bacteria, they are translated simultaneously. See the beauty of nature. So because bacteria has got very limited time, cannot wait to give a response to a given situation. So simultaneously all these genes, the messenger RNA, the information content of the genes, it will be translated simultaneously. So ribosome can join to the specific initiation codons shown over here. For example, one is joining here, other one is joined and passed some time also because it has synthesized the polypeptide chain. This is the polypeptide chain. Okay, so you can see some polypeptide chain has already been synthesized. The third one is still faster, means it has joined earlier and it has gone past halfway mark. And see the size of the polypeptide chain is quite bigger because it has already gone past the halfway mark. So simultaneously, depending upon the number of cistrons, you can have many more also on this side. All the cistrons, they can be simultaneously translated. Okay, so polycystronic messenger RNA, they can be simultaneously translated. Such a scenario is called as polysome. Ribosome is also called as polysome. Polycystronic and polysome. So ribosomes translating polycystronic messenger RNA, they are also referred to as polysomes, right? Then the next comes is tRNA. So I have been telling you that tRNA is the most crucial as far as protein biosynthesis is concerned because it is the translation adapter. So I will not repeat it now because it can understand language of amino acid and language of nucleotide. It has an anticodon. So this is the anticodon loop. And this X, Y, Z, these three codons going from 5' to 3' direction. Okay, all the time we'll be reading it, sorry, this way, 5' to 3'. So this is an anticodon which is complementary to a specific codon in the messenger RNA. So this will be binding to messenger RNA at the A site of the ribosome by complementarity. Okay, that binding, similar type of biomolecules in biological system, their interaction is easy. So tRNA will be binding to messenger RNA with the help of complementary base pairing. Now this can carry an amino acid at the other end, specified by the codon to which its anticodon is complementary. For example, let's say this anticodon is complementary to the codon for glycine. Okay, so the amino acid, this is the 3' end. Amino acid glycine will be charged over here because it is carrying an anticodon for glycine. Okay, so amino acid glycine will be charged over here, will be esterified over here at the 3' end. We'll be seeing little more details about this in some other lecture. So such a tRNA specific for a particular amino acid is called as cognate tRNA. So we'll very often will be using this word cognate. Such a tRNA is referred to as cognate tRNA, and it is represented as tRNA superscript that particular amino acid. For example, if it is a tRNA meant for glycine, then what you can say? You can simply say tRNA superscript glycine. And when amino acid glycine is esterified to it, it joins it at the 3' end here as shown over here, then such a tRNA can be referred to as glycinyl tRNA superscript glycine. Okay. tRNA specific for a particular amino acid is called as cognate tRNA. Okay. Who specifies the amino acid? The anticodon which is complementary to a particular codon. Okay. So for example, this anticodon is complementary to the codon glycine. So therefore it is a tRNA which can carry a glycine at the 3' end. Okay. So it is a cognate tRNA for glycine. How do you refer it? You refer it as tRNA superscript glycine. It is a tRNA superscript alanine, tRNA superscript phenylalanine. And when that particular amino acid gets esterified, then it is called as that particular amino acid tRNA amino acid, means glycinyl tRNA glycine, like that. So the next question that comes, what decides the meaning of tRNA? Whether it's amino acid that it is carrying or the anticodon that it is carrying. Of the two, the meaning of the tRNA is decided by whom? So let us understand it by taking one example. So let's say you have a tRNA cognate for cysteine, tRNA superscript cis. Okay. And then amino acid cysteine is charged on it, is esterified to it. So you have cysteanyl tRNA cis. What does it mean? It means that cysteine, amino acid cysteine has been esterified to 3-hydroxyl 3' end of the tRNA. So therefore what we are writing it, cysteanyl tRNA superscript cis, right? So this is a tRNA which is cognate tRNA for amino acid cysteine. What determines it? Because it carries an anticodon which is complementary to the codon for cysteine, right? And then an amino acid cysteine is esterified here. So amino acid cysteine has been esterified. So what do you call it? You call it as cysteanyl tRNA. This is cysteanyl tRNA superscript cis. Then what did you do? You chemically modified the esterified amino acid. Okay, cysteine which was esterified has been chemically modified in presence of one catalyst, ran in nickel, to amino acid alanine. Cysteine has been chemically converted to alanine. Okay, cysteine has been chemically converted to amino acid alanine after it has been esterified to the cognate tRNA. So now what do you have? You have a hybrid species. You have a tRNA which is carrying an anticodon for amino acid cysteine, codon of cysteine, right? But instead of carrying a cysteine, it is carrying amino acid alanine. So my question to you is, now this tRNA, this hybrid species, which is carrying an anticodon for amino acid cysteine, but carrying amino acid alanine instead of cysteine, will it be identifying the codon for cysteine or will it be identifying codon for alanine? Will it identify codon for alanine or cysteine? And the answer is, it will identify codon for cysteine only, because the anticodon remains the same. The anticodon is complementary to the codon of cysteine. It has not undergone any change. What has undergone a change? The amino acid. It has been chemically modified. So it will continue to identify codon for cysteine as it has a complementary codon for it. Thus, the meaning of tRNA, please understand, the meaning of tRNA is decided by its anticodon and not by the amino acid it carries. So irrespective of the amino acid it is carrying, it will carry the cognate amino acid. For example, if it is for cysteine, it will carry a cysteine, but later on something happens and that cysteine gets converted to some other amino acid. The meaning of that tRNA will be decided by its anticodon and not by the amino acid that it is carrying. So this is an important experiment, and you must remember that meaning of tRNA is decided by its anticodon and not by the amino acid it is carrying. The next is amino acids. So amino acids, you know, we have discussed it, that these are the building blocks for the polypeptide chain. So you require a pool of amino acids. Okay. So there are how many? 20 standard amino acids. What do you mean by standard? In fact, you have more than 150 amino acids like compounds, but only 20 participate in the protein biosynthesis of protein in the higher or lower organism, and therefore they are called as standard amino acids. Amino acids are pre-activated. See, what has happened is this peptide bond formation between the amino acids during protein biosynthesis is thermodynamically unfavorable. Okay, it violates the law of thermodynamics. So in order not to violate the law of thermodynamics, the amino acids are pre-activated. They are taken to a higher energy level before they enter the ribosome, so that peptide bond formation can take place during translation. How are they carried? They are carried bound to a specific, means I told you, cognate tRNA. Okay, because amino acid by themselves cannot identify the codon. Amino acid by themselves cannot identify the codon. For that you require an anticodon. Okay, nucleic acid only will identify nucleic acid. So amino acid cannot identify the codon by themselves. So they are carried on bound to a specific cognate. Specific का मतलब है cognate tRNA, as they themselves cannot recognize the codon. And the tRNA carrying a bound amino acid is also called as charged tRNA. Okay, the tRNA which is carrying the amino acid at its 3' end is also referred to as charged tRNA. Okay, I think that's all I have for this lecture. Thank you very much.